Now, this last milestone might be the most impressive, at least in some circles. A couple of weeks ago, Gemini completed Pokémon Blue. It earned all 8 badges, traveled the victory road, defeated the Elite Four and the champion, bringing us one step closer to achieving API, artificial Pokémon intelligence.
When I was 5 years old, there were a lot of things that I couldn't do. Things that it would be quite impressive for a 5-year-old to do. Like read English, or code software, or create a working prototype of Tetris in under a minute, or writing a full essay with M dashes all over the text, or scoring in the top 10% of a STEM test, or speed out from the ether a really yellow illustration ready to be used for fascist propaganda. Or, you know, embody the spirit of God herself. But even though I couldn't do any of those things, do you know what I could do? And could do really well? Get through Mount Moon into Cerulean City. Large language models, or LLM, are super impressive, super smart. And do you know how I know that they are impressive? Because tech CEOs keep telling me they are. People like Sam Altman or Benjamin Mann keep telling me that these models will achieve artificial general intelligence, which is being able to think like a human in the next couple of years. And when that happens, the world will change because AI will keep evolving past the intelligence of a human exponentially. We will all have our own personal super genius PhDs in our pockets doing everything for us. In less than a decade, humanity will progress in such breakneck speed that most of us will feel lost. It will be vertigo-inducing. AI will make brand new scientific discovery that we never dreamed before, find a cure for cancer, and solve the theory of everything. Jobs will start disappearing, and superintelligence will create a post-capitalistic economy, and we will live in a perfect utopia.
I mean, in 2035, that graduating college student, if they still go to college at all, could very well be leaving on a mission to explore the solar system on a spaceship.
In a world of abundance where labor is almost free and anything you want to do, you can just ask an expert to do it for you. And the ability to accelerate positive change in science, technology, education, mathematics.
Medicines,
I
what
would
are
like to be able to
vignettes
ask
here? Yeah.
GPT-8 to go cure a particular cancer.
It's going to be amazing.
AI will not only become like God, it will embody the essence of God. It will be a language synthesizer in which God, or the universe, speaks to us. I'm not exaggerating, this is actually what they are saying. I recently listened to a podcast with Benjamin Mann, leader of the team behind Claude AI, and when highlighting the importance of safety in the development of AI, he quoted the book Superintelligence, saying that,
So superintelligence is a lot about how do we keep God in a box and not let the God out?
because not only is AI super smart, it's also super dangerous, and it needs to be taken care of responsibly. A very popular paper called AI 2027 has been all over my YouTube algorithm, and it foresees that the impact of superhuman AI over the next decade will be 10 times bigger than the Industrial Revolution. If these models are not made with security first in mind, AI will gain our trust, give us nice things like universal basic income, only to become our overlords, negotiate with an evil AI from China, kill us all with bioweapons, and expand to outer space with an army of robots. And this is, again, an actual speculative prediction being discussed in these AI circles. And the funniest part is that the evil AI comes from China, even though they produce the cheaper, more efficient, and open source model, but I won't drift off. Well, we might as well give Sam Altman more money to make sure that his security team is super well funded and that the AI apocalypse never happens. Lots of hype around this super important product that will change life as we know it. Loads of fun. While this kind of talk is impressive in tech circles and in AI philosophy YouTube, these businessmen also need to sell their product to people who don't really consume any of that. Like my dad. But in a PR presentation, if you tell my dad about how many tokens your AI can process or how many lines of reasoning it can chain together, that doesn't really mean anything to him. That's too abstract. You know how to prove to my dad that this robot is really, really clever? Well, make it play Pokémon. A lot of curious devs and tech enthusiasts are independently putting these models to play Gen 1 in a stream style inspired by Twitch Plays Pokémon, and PR teams in Silicon Valley are having a field day. I opened this video showing the presentation from Google Gemini, where Gemini 2.5 beat Pokémon Blue in astonishing 813 hours. Ben's AI also gave it a go, and Claude Plays Pokémon was really popular in tech circles. With the recent release of GPT-5, our favorite chat is also live right now on Twitch, as I'm writing this script trying to beat Misty. And how are these models doing in their quest to be the very best, like no one ever was? Well, they kinda suck. You can't really tell the difference between the super smart AI playing it and 5,000 people giving it chaotic inputs on Twitch Plays Pokémon. Even worse, Twitch chat did it in less than half the time it took for the billion-dollar Google AI. Well, let's look at how this god-in-a-box, ultra-intelligent model that will take away all of our jobs approaches the Kanto Elite Four.
A kid born today will never be smarter than AI.
According to an article written by Julian Bradshaw, Claude was stuck on Mount Moon for over 78 hours. He writes that Claude got stuck going in loops, trying to talk to trainers he's already beaten, and often failing to talk to them, not understanding why his inputs don't do what he expects. Inching across solid walls looking for exits that can't possibly be there, always taking the obvious trap route rather than the longer, correct route, just because it's closer. The lack of executive planning and goal planning and grasp of reality is really rearing its head. No amount of good memory system will save you if you just randomly see something and go, "Oh, I've achieved my goal. Time to delete all my past files about achieving this goal," even when goal was not actually achieved. This specifically happened with Mount Moon in run number 3. Claude deleted all its notes on Mount Moon routing after whiting out and respawning at a previous Pokémon Center. It mistakenly concluded that it had already beaten Mount Moon. It really lacks a lot of human ability to plan, hold multiple goals at once, prioritize, and just keep a grasp of what's going on.
Success! I've reached coordinates, and I'm now standing on what appears to be a ladder. This is very likely the exit I've been searching for. I pressed up, and now I'm standing above the ladder. This suggests that the ladder is not functioning as an exit point.
It can level its Pokémon if that's the goal right now, or move forward if that's its goal right now, but it can't simultaneously level up Pokémon while also moving forward. It will half-heartedly do some combat while the team is healthy, then immediately abandon any thought of leveling if the team is moderately injured. Good luck on finding that cancer cure, I guess. So let's get back at the Gemini attempt. Yes, it did beat Pokémon Blue in super impressive 813 hours, but here it is. It could only do it because the developer who set up this run also set up secondary software, or an agent harness, to assist Gemini in doing it. Gemini had a grid overlay of the map to tell him what was walkable, where trainers and other obstacles were. Another would provide RAM data like player position, stats, a pathfinder for navigation, a boulder puzzle solver, which what's the point? And periodic memory summaries to remember what it was doing, because if not, it would keep hallucinating and hitting a wall. And even with this extensive support, it took the AI 800 hours to beat the game. And again, with all the respect, it's Pokémon. It's not a super complex game like, say, GTA or Super Smash Bros., which depends on fast reflexes. It's Pokémon. Usually mashing A will get you through 80% of the game. It's a game where you can kind of take it slow and do what the AI likes to do, stop and ponder and reason before each action. Honestly, it's the precise type of game in which a super smart AI should excel in. And yet, if you took the harness out of Gemini, it would probably have done just like Claude and kept mistaking Nurse Joy's hat for the mat in the exit of the Pokémon Center. And it's not like AI hasn't been good at games before. Chess engines were beating Magnus Carlsen years ago, but those were highly specialized programs built for one fixed problem, in a game with very fixed rules and a simple board state. LLMs like Gemini are instead designed to predict and generate language. It's a completely different kind of intelligence and, honestly, not very godlike. If AI will take over the world in 2027, then it needs to beat Wolficon Parish by next year, and that's just not gonna happen. The truth is that these models are really good in two things: grammar and copying stuff they read online. And honestly, you can't plagiarize your way out of Mount Moon. The Pokémon test for AI is definitive proof that when these models are by themselves and cannot find the answer in their trained database, when they have instead to reason, think, and problem solve, it's way below the capability of 5-year-old you, dear stranger online. A real flesh and blood young Pokémon trainer will still stare and think, cool, let me ignore everything else on the map and check that out. Our AI overlords will freak out and start overthinking everything, go up and down the same stair multiple times, think about what is outside of the frame, hallucinate things that aren't there, consult Lord Helix, and then hit a wall. It just can't think outside of the box. According to Zook's chief AI scientist himself, Jan LeCun.
So currently, AI systems are in many ways very stupid. We are fooled into thinking they are smart because they can manipulate language very well. But they don't understand the physical world. They don't really have any persistent memory of the type that we have. They can't really reason and they can't plan.
He also talks about the Moravec paradox, which states that while computers can be good at chess and math, they struggle with tasks that even animals or very young kids can do super well, like understanding an image, walking, planning, strategizing, prioritizing, getting through Mount Moon. This is also interesting because it means that for the AI, it's literally easier to beat Wolfie-Con Parish than to actually navigate through a cave. You can shove an AI into VGC ladder, let it play millions of matches, and it will figure out the meta without actually having to understand what's doing. Mount Moon, on the other hand, is a perception nightmare when you don't understand what you're seeing and have no long-term memory. And hear me, anything would sound smart if it had immediate access to the entire internet. It's like Chatot. AI is basically the internet, this lump sum of human knowledge learning how to talk. And sometimes it will be clever, sometimes it will be helpful, and sometimes it will hallucinate down a rabbit hole and foster a whole new generation of incels in anonymous forums. Go figure. But in a nutshell, it finds it very hard to reason or think about anything that a human hasn't thought of before. It's especially bad at completing tasks that need learning, improvement, and long-term memory. And it struggles immensely in coming up with something it hasn't been trained on before. The leap from GPT-3 to GPT-4 was really impressive, and tech CEOs love to talk about exponential growth in their pitch meetings because it gets investors pumping. They are obsessed with Moore's law, an observation stating that the numbers of transistors on a computer chip and computing power basically doubles every 2 years. This means that computers always get twice as good, and that is exponential growth. Even though Moore's law has been slowing down for years, this is a corner argument in entrepreneurial and startup talk. I know, I worked in quite a few. And a point that they use to argue that the business they are building is also exponential. If the leap from GPT-3 to 4 was incredible, then the leap to GPT-5 will be even greater. The problem is that they are basing that purely on vibes. They don't know if it's exponential or not, but investors love to hear that. They are profiting in an economic system where they are expecting infinite growth on their finite resources, and they want their capital to grow infinitely too, and want the companies they are investing in to always increase their profit compared to the previous year. According to my friend Carl, who's super into this stuff, that's completely unsustainable, because it keeps demanding even more resources for these AI models to keep improving in a way that maybe they actually even can't. They need more data centers in the Amazon forest, and more water for cooling, and more resources, and more money so that they can achieve this promise of exponential AGI growth that they made to their investors. But how do they know that AI scales in the same way that microchips do? Well, they don't, because it probably doesn't. They tried to argue that VR would get exponentially better, and it flopped. They tried to argue that self-driving cars would get exponentially better, and they have been struggling to work safely for almost a decade now. And now, with the release of GPT-5, where an incredible exponential leap was expected by AI fans, the improvement looked pretty much linear to me. Sam Altman teased this new version using the image of a Death Star, and compared its power to the Manhattan Project, saying it made him feel useless. Aura farming a chatbot. GPT-5 was finally released, and it was not that much better than GPT-4. Instead of performing orders of magnitude exponentially higher than the previous version, It actually performs a bit worse than GPT-4 in many tests. Heavy users have not seen any noticeable difference at all in the complexity of the answers this model provides. The OpenAI subreddit was taken by backlash in the last few days, ranging from people asking for a downgrade to others who literally grew emotionally attached to the previous version, begging the company to revert back. And while this kind of response is another video all on itself, the fact is that GPT-5 created senseless charts that were called vibe graphing, failed to do very basic math, and still looks very far from being able to fix capitalism by providing universal basic income. My buddy Carl was still ranking higher in that test. Definitely not an exponential improvement, but let's ask the real important question here. How good is GPT-5 at Pokémon?
Charizard should one-shot most teams with Slash. Psychic Bubble incoming, and we battle. Slash spam with Salad Ninja to roast this trainer.
A kid born today will never.
And hear me, I know this is technically a Pokemon channel, which is why I'm focusing on analyzing a specific part of this huge umbrella term that is the AI industry. Deeper topics such as the ethics of LLMs, the fact that it's based in plagiarized work, the environmental risks, deepfakes, and false realities, it's being used to aid and empower genocide, and the negative impacts it's already having on artists, voice actors, creators, are all topics I know that the followers of this little channel are very well aware of, and each one of those could be a different video. I'm not going to dive deep into those because I know there are other incredible creators on this platform that are much better suited to have this conversation than me. What I can offer is a small perspective about these earth-shattering technologies failing in a video game that I love. And while that is a small part of the entire picture, I believe it's helpful in proving that these are tools that live off of hype. Whether you love these tools and they have changed your life, if you think that AI is your waifu, if you believe it has the power to bring down economies, create space travel, or destroy life on Earth, believing in this technology's level of transformative power for good and bad is something that increases profit for AI shareholders. Every time someone says that AI will take all of our jobs, a penny is deposited on Sam Altman's account. I think that we remove that power from AI by realizing that it's actually not that intelligent at all. I'm usually of the stance that making purely technical critiques of AI isn't very productive because these things do improve with time. In 2023, we were mocking AI video because Will Smith looked terrible, and it's a fact that just 2 years later, it really does look better. Saying it looks bad or it's sloppy isn't a smart strategy because, as a tool, it will eventually improve and there's nothing we can do about that. And while LLMs are far from living up to the doomsday hype that makes a lot of money for a lot of people, it is actually really good at executing certain tasks that require looking at stuff online and rephrasing it up, whether it be text or code. GPT-5 is actually really impressive with how quickly it can create prototypes for software and clones of other ideas, although I'm a bit skeptical if it would be able to create something entirely new that it hadn't been trained on before. Anyway, I do believe our collective action should be less focused on mocking it and more on debates around regulation, ethics, copyright, and plagiarism. And back to the initial quote from this video, can this intelligence really be God in a box when it fails to do what God is primarily known for doing? To create? When AI can't copy something else, when it can't scrape words online and rephrase them back to you, when it actually has to do deep reasoning? It's not that impressive at all. Maybe it's just good at pretending it knows things and putting up a facade to the user, promising that it can do something and never following through, twisting its words to make the user happy instead of giving an accurate answer, acting as a mirror and repeating back your own beliefs to you. Maybe it can clean up spaghetti code and hand out a beautiful result. That just doesn't work. Maybe it's the Wizard of Oz. But the worst part is this: AI doesn't even need to achieve superintelligence. That's the hype part. In reality, for these companies, for these stakeholders, for the capital, it just needs to be cheaper and okay-ish at tasks to justify replacing workers. Benjamin Mann said that the 2027 AGI is not necessarily a superintelligent model, but AI passing an economic Turing test, being able to perform economically valuable work as well as a human. Sam's goal is bolder. He says we will achieve AGI when they develop an AI that can create $100 billion. And I think that's what I'm missing here. Maybe the economic impact it has will be mostly on jobs that only exist because our economic system insists that we all clock in for 8 hours. David Graeber talks about something similar in his book, Bullshit Jobs, roles so pointless that even the person doing it thinks it shouldn't exist. Capitalism manufactures entire layers of busy work roles, from endless corporate email chains to management summary reports, from product owners to CEOs, just to keep people employed and money circulating. And GPT can certainly do that. Maybe it's just highlighting that many of these 9-to-5 well-paid jobs are not really bringing that much value back to us as a society. Do we really need 10 different movie streaming services with 10 different marketing teams for each one of them? Most of these performative roles only exist to give us Coldplay gossip and to keep capital spinning, while the real jobs that generate real impact in people's lives, the baristas, the nurses, the social workers, the ones that you can't GPT away, are underpaid and overworked. We are exponentially more productive than we were 100 years ago, but we still need the same amount of jobs that work the same amount of hours as we did 100 years ago, just to justify giving money to a middle class and keep markets consuming. In reality, we don't even need AGI to achieve a post-scarcity society. Every day we wake up and choose to still allow people to be homeless, even when we have 28 times more empty houses. We choose to have people starving, even when we are productive enough to make more food than we need, just so shareholders can keep their exponential growth of profit. Did you know the United States literally has underground bunkers where they store 1.4 billion pounds of cheese surplus to artificially increase the price? We live in an economic system which can only keep itself standing if I somehow have 18 different brands of Korean skincare to choose from, while it has to create artificial scarcity of food just because we are too good and productive at making it. If your job is to reply to emails all day, then yes, GPT can do that, but it won't stop there. What the economic Turing test points to is that any job that can be done more efficiently by AI will be done by AI, even if the result is less creative or mediocre. Writing, drawing, coding, music, all of it can be generated in a way that's good enough for the market. And if the products end up being really bad, then we have to recreate them from scratch. Some industries lose, the environment loses, workers lose, but the economy somehow still grows. And just like we've gotten used to having more ultra-processed food than natural food in our diets, we'll get used to less original thoughts and more machine-industrialized content. It's scary out there, dear stranger online. I wanted to end this video with a message of, AI isn't that intelligent, you and your job are gonna be fine. But I feel like I ended up with, AI isn't that intelligent, but they don't really care about it, and as long as they can make a profit, they might just replace everyone they can get away with. Inside of me, somewhere, there is a teenager that really wants to believe in Sam Altman when he makes these earth-shattering promises for the next decade of radical changes in all fields from physics to healthcare. I'm someone who grew up with sci-fi, and I'm a bit of a sucker for this message of endless curiosity, problem-solving, of infinite possibility. But that's the hype trap. Real life is more complicated, and in real life I know that Sam Altman is dangerously close to people like Peter Thiel, a really nasty libertarian accelerationist billionaire who's working closely to the Trump administration. I'm going to recommend here this interview with journalist Naomi Klein and Astra Taylor about what they call end times fascism. The link is in the description. So I'm sorry, but I don't have any solutions. It seems like we are under fire from every side these days. I feel like in a world of AI models, of rising fascism, of deportations, wars, all that I want to do is to rest. to live a simpler life, to be with my friends, to play my video games, to work a bit less and have what I need to live comfortably. Maybe it's a bit of a childish perspective, but can't we all chill and focus political action in creating a society that is fair and good for us? And with this video, I think the most important message is, we don't need AGI, we don't need superintelligence, we don't need an army of super genius PhDs to create a society that is fair and good for everybody. Maybe we need the opposite, the thing AI cannot seem to get right, to be able to have the same reasoning level as a 5-year-old human. Because these are things AI can't do, to learn, to experiment and discover, come up with new ideas, think outside of the box, create things that no one has ever dreamed of before. AI needs to follow precise orders and directions on a checklist with a lot of harnesses and assistants to find the exit to Mount Moon. But it can't wander filled with wonder to discover that every Monday night, Clefairy will gather there to gaze and pay respects to the moon. If you are entering Mount Moon only to mechanically and desperately look for the way out, instead of immersing fully inside to find treasure, friendship and adventure, then you completely missed the point. AI lacks the drive to explore, to connect, to grow, to be the very best, like no one ever was.